is a live stream of a press conference that's taking place, and it's not my, prerogative to say that anything that they're doing is true. With that, let's see what they're up to. Jack, why don't you lead us off?
Well, good morning, good day, everyone. Thanks for coming. Thanks for everyone for being here. You know, this is a sad day. It's not the kind of thing we like to do. And I want to start out, before we get to our very special guest, I want to say how hard this is for me and Brother Wohl. Project 1599, when we started it, we committed ourselves not to any form of politics, but to the truth. Now, everyone here knows we are, most of you would describe us as being further right than Attila the Hun. We are right-wingers, and you know that, and that's no secret. However, our commitment when this project began some 3 years ago was to follow the facts, follow the truth wherever they lead. Today, this is painful because, as many of you already know, the truth has led to our own friends and colleagues in the House and in other prominent places, which is very difficult for Jacob and for me. This is hard, and I want you to know that. Now, we also, once again, before we get to our special guest, we volunteer, both Jacob and I volunteer, we volunteer ourselves for testimony before the House Ethics Committee, which is investigating Congressman Gaetz and possibly Giuliani and others. So we issue an open invitation to the committee. They can call us at any time, no subpoena necessary. We would love to come, share our knowledge, and share our knowledge with Congress. Now, I come now to our very special guest, Gabby Faulkner. Gabby is one of the most courageous young women I've ever known. And what she's about to tell you and what she's about to do today was very, very difficult for her. And we applaud her courage in every way we can applaud and salute courage. She has really gone beyond. She's gone to the limits to do this. This is very, very difficult, very, very difficult for a young woman. And so, without further ado, Gabby is my client. She's a client of mine and of Jacob's in my law firm. And she's a very valued client that we are very glad to have. And now I give you Brother Jacob Wohl, who will begin the analysis of the facts.
Well, what you're going to hear Ms. Faulkner discuss today is her past as a madam in the DC and Baltimore area. She has been a madam for the better part of 10 years. She's going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about, beyond Congressman Gaetz, we're going to talk about some information that we've stumbled into regarding Rudy Giuliani and an underage teen. We're going to talk about all of that just ahead, but without further ado, I think that now is a great time to hear from Gabby, and she can tell you her story with all of this.
Hello everyone, my name is Gabrielle Lucille Faulkner. I was born October 23rd, 1990 on Kandina Air Base in Okinawa, Japan. I have spent the great majority of my life in the Washington, D.C. metro area between Northern Virginia and Maryland. From 2010 through 2012, I worked in a since defunct Baltimore Gentlemen's Club as an office manager and bookkeeper. During that time, I did consider the idea of starting a companionship escort business. I figured many of the women worked as performers and they also worked as escorts on the side, so with their willingness to do the job and my abilities to network with wealthy men, it would be a great business for everyone involved. Beginning of September 2012, I started Precious Escorts Baltimore. I acted as a booker arranging companionship escort services for wealthy men from the Baltimore and Washington, D.C. metro area. At one point in time, I did manage a fleet of 14 different women that clients could choose from. At no point did I offer these women for sex in exchange for money. I exclusively offered legal companionship escort services to clients. In many instances, I can recall that men would ask women who were willing to engage in certain sexual acts, but in every instance, I would remind them that companionship escort services were all I could arrange. Over the years, my clients have included Congressman Matt Gaetz, Congressman Billy Long, former New York City Rudy Giuliani, Mayor Rudy Giuliani, and many others. I am aware of 2 women who had relations with Congressman Gaetz. The first young woman is Sophia Carbone. The relationship between Ms. Carbone and Congressman Gaetz was very abusive and corrupt. At one point, Congressman Gaetz did live with Ms. Sophia in her no-mount apartment in Washington, D.C. During that time, Congressman Gaetz lived with Ms. Carbone. He would repeatedly ask her for, quote, MFM threesomes, end quote, which she repeatedly said no to. The second woman who engaged in relations with Congressman Gaetz is named Natalie Winters. Congressman Gaetz began his relations with Ms. Winters, a University of Chicago student, before she turned 18 years old. I personally did not know Ms. Winters until she turned 18 years old, though she did tell me about past relations with Congressman Gaetz. In November of 2019, I was contacted by Italian politician Alessandro Pagano. He wanted to retain the services of 2 young women as companionship escorts during his visit to Washington, D.C. I did arrange him to spend time with both Ms. Carbone and Ms. Winters. When Congressman Gaetz became a client of mine in early 2018, it became quickly apparent that he had certain tastes that would be difficult, if not impossible, for me to provide for. The congressman asked if I had, quote, good-looking twinks in my stable, end quote. I told him I did not. He then asked me if I had any women who were 16 or 17 years old. Disgustingly, I told him I did not. He began to ask me if I worked with any women that were interested in, quote, long-term sugar daddies, which I told him I did not. As someone who suffered sexual abuse during my childhood, I was absolutely appalled when Congressman Gaetz made these requests. After providing company to Congressman Gaetz, women would tell me stories which I found disturbing. For example, Ms. Carbone told me how Gaetz brought her to the Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C. and began to shout insults at her in front of a female bartender, which she said, quote, completely humiliated her, end quote. She showed me text messages where Gaetz repeatedly demanded that she participate in a threesome with him and another man. Other women told me how Gaetz aggressively demanded that they have anal sex. After repeated disturbing complaints from women, I ended my relationship with Congressman Gaetz December of last year. As a victim of abuse myself, I cannot let this behavior stand, and I will make the truth known. That is why today I am hereby volunteering my testimony before the House Ethics Committee. Matt needs to be accountable for his conduct.
Well, before we get to questions here, I do want to share some photos and video of Mr. Giuliani on a date with a 16-year-old. I want to stress that this 16-year-old was not provided for by our client here. She was not provided for by Ms. Faulkner. We don't know how Mr. Giuliani came to know this 16-year-old, but he was in fact on a date with her at the Trump Hotel. This is a picture the night of July 20th, 2020. And on this night, I happened to be at the Trump Hotel, and I happened to notice Mr. Giuliani with a young woman.
Jacob, pardon me, if any of you want to close up, feel free to approach and take a
Now,
close shot.
It's no secret that Mr. Giuliani, even in his marriage, liked to partake in younger women. He's of course infamously dated several young women who were employees of the Daily Caller. But this woman looked particularly young. She looked extraordinarily young. And so I decided to take a number of photos. I later learned that in fact this young woman at the time, and still to this day, was 16 years old. And it comported with other facts that we gathered about Mr. Giuliani, some of which came from Ms. Faulkner, the DC madam. Now if you zoom in on this photo, you'll see Mr. Giuliani seated here. We're not sure who the woman to Mr. Giuliani's left-hand side is. The blonde young woman who you see to his right-hand side is the 16-year-old who he was in fact furnishing alcohol to that night, who he put on his lap that night, and who he introduced briefly to the President of the United States, the then President of the United States, that evening. We also have not been able to identify the gentleman who is sitting to the left-hand side of the blonde woman, who we do know the name of, but are choosing not to name, the blonde woman that is, because she is underage. She is still 16 years old. The woman who is seated to the left-hand side of that gentleman is, in fact, Miss Sophia Carbone. That is who is seated.
Just one quick point. Everyone we've named here
Come over
today,
here.
everyone we have named here today, just for the record, is 18 years old or older. Go ahead. Sorry.
Now?
Correct, yes.
So they were 16?
No, we don't know. Gaetz, Jacob can tell you the timeline.
Well, every
So how-
person,
wait, how
every
is that
person who's being
possible?
named, hold on, every person who's being named by us today is today 18 years old.
But they were 16 at the time?
Miss Winters began her relationship with Gaetz when she was 17. This young woman who you see in this photo is 16 in the photo and remains 16 with Mr.
And
Giuliani.
remain 16 now?
Yes,
When
and
exactly
wait,
was the
wait.
photo taken?
the photo was taken on July 20th of 2020.
But how is
Less
that
than a year
possible? How is it possible that some of the girls in the photo are now 18 years old, and the girl who was also in the photo magically didn't grow in age?
Well,
Because she was 16 then and she's 16
it's less
now.
than a year old. This photograph's less than
She
1 year
hasn't,
old. It's
she
less than a
hasn't
year
yet
old.
turned
And
17.
how-
It's only 9 months old.
But then how are some of the people like 2 years older in the photo?
The people in that photo,
Because they were
other
17.
than the
They were
blonde girl.
17 and now they're
The-
what?
You're
No,
talking about
no,
apples and
you're-
oranges.
No, you're talking about different
Apples
people.
and
Yeah,
oranges.
these,
Miss Carbone was not below the age of 18 in that photo,
Mrs. How old was she in that photo?
19. And so now I'm going to show you a
And how old
video.
was the other girl?
The other girl, we're not sure that's in that photo. We're not sure. Are you asking? Who are you asking about?
So there were none that were 16 there then.
I'm going to
There
show you a
was
video
one.
here, and in this video,
No, so there was one?
Well, no, clarify.
I'm going to show
Okay,
a
go ahead,
video.
you're right.
In this video, you can see the back of Mr. Giuliani's head. You can see the president here. You can see a woman with blonde hair off to the right-hand side of the photo. That is Matt Gaetz's chief of staff. She is standing just behind the president. The woman who is wearing the mask with the blonde hair next to Mr. Giuliani is the 16-year-old who he was on a date with
Where?
that night.
Where?
You should be able to see her.
You can step forward if you like.
You should be able to see her just right here wearing a mask. That is the 16-year-old, and I'm going to continue showing the videos.
And
so
that's
that
the
you can
same
see.
16-year-old that was at the table?
That was at the table, yes. And you're going to see
And is
a,
that, hold on, Jacob, and that's the same girl who you said sat on his lap that night?
yes,
That's the same person.
it's the same person. And so you can see this video here. Rudy Giuliani is introducing that 16-year-old to the president who had just had dinner, supposedly to impress her.
So then why not just show us who she is and stuff?
Well, she's a minor, so she's not going to be named.
We're not naming people who are currently
You can
minors.
see
We're
her
not
here.
gonna-
We're
not
not
gonna
going
do
to name
that.
minors.
Ethical reasons, we're not gonna get into that. There's no
We
legal,
won't
there's
name minors.
there's no legal reason we can't do it.
This
There's
is
ethical reasons
now
we won't do
Congressman
it.
Madison Cawthorn, then a candidate, pictured here.
And what do you have on him?
And this is then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows in this photo, in this frame here.
But he has nothing to do
In the
with
video.
this. No?
And there's Mr. Giuliani and his teenage date in the video. And so this is to stress that we happened into some evidence. We happened to be at the right place at the right time, and we coupled that with an investigation which found additional wrongdoing. Ms. Faulkner came forward after hearing about the bounty which we were offering for information related to Matt Gaetz. She has, however, insisted that we do not pay her that bounty. She is doing this out of what she feels is her moral duty.
So you were gonna get paid what, 25K?
Well, you covered the
She's
story.
refused to pay.
We put out a bounty
Of
for
25.
information as we've done in the
Right.
past, correct. But in her goodness, she refused to accept it.
Did you say at the beginning of this that she's retained you as counsel?
Yeah. So
She's,
what-
we
what
are
she
counsel,
did-
we're pro bono, there's not, we're retained, we're representing her, I'm
But
representing her.
you've
as a
signed a
lawyer.
document that you are her lawyer.
Yeah, yes, I'm correct.
I know
I'm her
Jacob's not a lawyer, but
Yeah,
you're
right.
still.
Jacob is part of my firm, yeah, I'm a lawyer,
Right.
correct.
Jacob's part of your firm?
Yes, he's part of the firm, and I'm a lawyer, and I'm representing her pro bono, of course, but as counsel, yes, representation as counsel, correct.
Is Project 1599 a law firm, or is
No,
that your own
No,
separately?
the Project 1599 is just our designation
So-
for us, it's
so
not an
then-
entity at all.
so-
It's not an entity.
So why are you guys not having this at your
Just a
house?
designation.
Why are you having it at a?
Oh, safety reasons, I mean, I don't get, it's just safety reasons, safety and security. We don't want.
And the unpredictability.
We don't want our friends with the banjo man, we don't want our crazy friends coming around.
Oh, so
The music and the crazy.
So the banjo made you mad. You guys tried to
Well,
get
it's-
no,
no.
no, 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 hold on. You guys tried to get a water hose, and then the water hose
I
didn't
don't
work
know about
out.
hose,
So
but I'll
now
tell you.
we're not.
He's getting kind of excited.
The issue, Zach, is really the music. These people, crazy people would come and play music in the car to drown out the speech.
Vagrants and derelicts.
We don't want derelicts coming around, so we decided for a commercial.
All kinds of, all manners of reprobates would show up from the area and play music, so we.
Okay,
put a stop to
let's carry on. Let's see the evidence.
You got it.
Let's see it, because I haven't seen it yet.
Well, I think you've seen a great
You've
deal
seen
of
quite a
evidence,
lot.
and you know
I
what I
saw-
would
I
do
saw
is
two-
I would
no, no, I saw
I
two
would ask
blurry
Mr.
photos.
Giuliani who he was with that night at this dinner.
You showed two blurry photos that are.
Well, take a step closer. We want you to come and see it, photograph it yourself.
And we're happy to send you the raw photos as well.
We want you to examine.
Okay, you've alleged that this woman sat on Rudy Giuliani's lap. You don't have any kind of photographic evidence of that, do you?
I don't have any photos of her on his lap, but she certainly was.
So
on his
take-
lap.
What
what
evidence
is
do you
this
have
like-
that she was a date
Or
of his of
take a
any
look
kind?
at the picture.
He
Take a
was
look at
furnishing
the-
her alcohol, he was
So does this?
putting his arm around her romantically.
Does your client have? So what does your client? Does your client know this lady? The 16-year-old.
No, this 16-year-old was not provided for by our client, and she doesn't know the 16-year-old.
Okay,
No.
so then why not do the right thing if you think this just seems weird. Like what does your client have to do with the 16-year-old then? Like
She doesn't have any.
Nothing. They're different. You're talking about apples and oranges. Nothing.
But
Nothing
Mr.
at all.
Giuliani was a client of hers, and in fact did hire
and you're
companionship
so
escorts.
you're alleging that Gaetz had a relationship with these two young or this one young woman at the National
Both.
Pulse. Both women.
Both at different
Okay.
times.
So you're claiming that both women had a relationship at the National Pulse, the two writers there.
Well, that's a relationship is one thing to call it.
What was
You've seen
that?
how Ms. Faulkner has characterized it. It was something that I think I wouldn't characterize.
Is this just payback? Is this just you trying to get back at that?
What do you mean payback? It's our own team. Do you know how hard it
You
is for
guys,
us to
you
do
guys,
this?
you guys have
This
had
is our
long,
own.
you guys have long had a beef with like Raheem Kassam and like those characters.
Zach,
Are you guys trying to smear him? Are you trying to smear him?
Absolutely not. This is our own team. Do you know how hard it is for us to report on our own friends and colleagues? You know how hard
It's
this
not
is?
easy.
This is difficult. This is our
In fact,
own.
we have had
this
a
is our
lot of
own
pressure
team.
come against us from people on the right who have pressured us not to come forward with this.
Take a step back and think about what you're looking at today. This is Burkman and Wohl talking about Republicans. We've never done that before. We don't like to
Yeah,
do
you
it.
exception of
did.
Ted
No,
Cruz.
you guys did because you did it with like Ted Cruz and you claimed he was like a swinger. Or
We
something.
follow
It
the
was weird.
facts. We
I mean, it
follow
was
the
false.
facts.
It was false. Why should
Wherever they
people?
lead.
Why should people believe you guys now?
It
Right?
was
This
not
is what the
false, Zach. It
umpteenth
was
press
absolutely
conference.
true.
This is like the umpteenth
We
press
follow
conference.
the facts.
Why should people trust
And,
you?
Wherever
and
they
you know, the
lead.
thing I would add is that outside of what we've just presented, there's overwhelming evidence of misconduct with Matt Gaetz. You know, our client here discussed that Matt Gaetz moved in with one of these women. The reason he moved in is because he was busted for renting an apartment from a lobbyist at a reduced rate. And that same day, he moved in with her as to cover his tracks. Matt Gaetz has also spent $200,000 of taxpayer money that is for his congressional expenses renting space from one of his largest donors. He's gone on several trips to the Bahamas with lobbyists. Matt Gaetz is the essence of corruption in Washington, D.C. And what you're seeing today is just one small slice of it.
Okay. Is this really it? Are you really?
Do you have any
you really-
images that would
This is.
expand on your allegations against Matt
Or
Gaetz
think about what you're saying.
whatsoever?
Think about
other
what
than-
you're saying. You have a basis to go to Rudy Giuliani.
Matt Gaetz isn't in this video, so I mean, I think I don't see how this video proves what you say it does. But
doesn't.
on the Matt Gaetz
Well, we have
thing,
the video
do you
is
have
not-
literally any photographic evidence at all?
We do, in fact.
Can we see it?
there's going to be a lot more to come, including on Billy Long.
But you guys always say that, right?
This is-
It was,
this
no,
is
no,
a-
no, no.
this is
It
a
was that with
foretaste of the
Ukraine.
feast
It
to
was
come.
that with Ukraine. It was that with, you know, the Hunter Kelly, the Carolina
Zach,
Pass,
if you think
the
about
Rod Schwaldweck or whatever. Like, it's always something
Zach,
with you guys.
these are our friends.
Like, why not just
You-
give it a
you
rest
under-
and focus
you-
on your felonies?
You understand these are our friends. You know how hard this is? This is not
Raheem Kassam and like these characters aren't
I
your
don't know.
friends.
I don't
you guys
know
have like
Raheem
personal
Kassam.
beef with them.
I don't know how
So-
Raheem
We
is.
don't know what he has.
I don't know anything about him. I'm just telling you.
Oh, come on,
this
Jacob,
is-
you know. You're laughing.
Well, I
You're
don't know
laughing.
what, no, I just don't know what he has to do with this. I'm not sure what.
I've never met Raheem. I don't know a thing about him. But this is very difficult.
You held a press conference in part about him
Yes.
once.
You
You
guys
just
never
say you
met
don't
the
know
guy.
anything about him.
You guys
I've
are
never
just
met
full of it. But like start
Never
telling. Now would be a great time to start telling the truth.
This is very difficult for us to do. You should respect that. You should respect the efforts of 1599 here.
If there are sexual deviants on the right, we're going to come after them with just as much veracity as we do
I think
for
I
those on the
think I
left.
think the right's laughing at you right now, Jacob. This is not.
Zach, what you should focus on is doing your follow-up homework, and the
Yeah,
answers you
but
get from the
this-
subjects might surprise
If you think that Matt Gaetz is kosher, if you think he's all good, that's one hill to die on,
You're
Zach.
claiming-
And,
Okay, so
I
you're
encourage you to go pursue that.
so you're
because
you're claiming that a right-wing writer for a publication by the name of National Pulse.
the allegations
is-
speak for themselves. They speak for themselves, and listen, women are forced into various things. They're manipulated. We don't think that the women in these stories are the bad ones. We think that the perpetrators are those who should be held responsible, specifically Rudy Giuliani, Congressman Gaetz, to name a few. And the House Ethics Committee really ought to start looking into
We
this.
have put more than 500 man-hours into this investigation. This is a massive.
500 man
you're
hours
looking at a
for
massive
a
investigation.
couple blurry photos and like
You have no idea what
a
it took
document
to
written by
get
a
to this
3-year-old?
point,
So
to
you
get
asked,
to
you
this
you
point.
asked Mr. Giuliani, who he was with that night. You asked Congressman Gaetz about these relations he's had. You
You'll
asked-
get admissions. You'll quickly
you
get
asked-
some
you
admissions
just
from
go ahead and
these
ask
people.
Congressman Gaetz.
No,
You'll
no,
see.
no.
You asked
You
Congressman
see.
Gaetz where he was living in October of 2020.
Well, why don't you guys just provide evidence? Because this isn't evidence. This is hearsay.
This is strong evidence.
This is
In
hearsay.
500 hours of
Ma- you find a
investigating
couple
this,
blurry
photos.
all you have
To
is certain
get
is
to
being
this
in the
point.
lobby
I mean,
with
you guys should be
Giuliani.
We
spending
have-
500 hours maybe
We're not
on
allowed
felonies in
to.
multiple
We are not
states.
allowed to show pornographic material. We're not allowed to show certain things. by
Okay.
law.
You,
Well, that's-
you have
that's-
pornographic material
you're-
that would implicate
We're not
Rudy
allowed to talk
Giuliani
about
or
it,
Matt
show
Gaetz.
us.
Oh, so now you're not allowed to talk about it. Everything's falling apart at the seams, Jacob. Yet again for the umpteenth time.
Zach, you should
What's
do your
going on
homework,
here?
ask your questions, do work all the way around.
Jacob, you're
Hey,
not allowed to
hey,
talk about it because of
It's your
attorney-client
press
privilege or
conference.
law. Why can't you
Law,
describe the
you
evidence
can't,
that would actually
there's revenge
prove
porn
your story?
issues, like with
Legal
Katie Hill.
reasons, all kinds of legal reasons. We're not gonna put out pornography. We're not people like that. That's not what
And,
we
and
do.
Congressman Gaetz called Katie Hill his best
So-
friend. They're both sexual deviants.
We're
and
not
makes
here to
perfect
put out
sense.
Did somebody secretly film the things you're describing? Like, even if you're not going to show the images that you say you have, where did you get them? How did you
We
get them?
cannot discuss those matters, but
No,
here's what
but
I
you
can
got
tell you.
these you got these blurry
Here's what I-
photos from Jacob, kind of like just
This-
surreptitiously recording
you
over
mark
his
my
shoulder,
words.
right?
You mark my words and
Well,
mark
he
them
just
well.
admitted that.
This is a
Matt Gaetz
foretaste
is going
of
to
the
be
feast to
indicted.
come. Foretaste of the feast
Well,
to come.
aren't you guys already facing felonies? So like, why should people trust you? You guys have lied so many times.
If this doesn't prove the supreme integrity of Project 1599, going at people that are friends, nothing ever will. Nothing ever will for you.
Well,
Do you still stand by when you had Kylie sing the national anthem and then separately you called her Kay and had her be one of your kind of actors the way that you're doing with this woman who's calling herself Gabrielle?
Now, you're making powerful allegations
Do you-
against a woman that took a lot of courage for her to stand up here today and talk about her own abused past.
So I don't know this person, so I'm not saying anything about her.
You
But
just
in
did.
in the past,
So,
you have used
did they
a
find you on
woman
Craigslist?
who was an actor
Did they find me
to
on
make
Craigslist?
allegations
Yeah,
like
like, were
this.
you-
That's
in
your
sort of
question.
in this
Yeah,
format.
like, it
Do you
just
still
seems
stand
like
by
another
this?
We're not
setup.
here to talk about absurd
It
things.
seems
You
like-
know better
it
than
seems
that.
like a setup
Enough.
again.
Enough. We're not here to deal with
It seems like a
absurd
step.
questions.
You guys always are like
That
on
is not true.
Craigslist. Like, what's going on here?
You
why
know
not,
better than
why
that.
not tell the truth?
We've been told that you're on Craigslist, Zach. For very different reasons. We don't wanna
Oh,
get into
Jacob,
that.
I would love to see evidence of that. Because clearly you're not one for finding evidence. This is not it. I mean,
If you actually let's suppose for a moment that you actually had real evidence against Rudy Giuliani or Matt
What
Gaetz.
we're giving you
What-
is, if you.
Why would you
what
do
we're
it
giving
in
is
this
we're showing
format
you
as opposed to
exactly
handing
what
out
to
to the
hunt down.
police?
We're showing you exactly what to hunt down, because what the media has provided us to now is a dozen anonymous women They say this person says this about Congressman Gaetz, that person says that, and we're not gonna name any of them. And that's not appropriate.
Respectfully, in this room, you have two reporters who don't believe you whatsoever.
Well,
a
that's
couple of other
fine,
people
but
who have no idea who they are.
What I would
Just spectators, and then one person who's
What I would
not
encourage you
crazy,
for
but-
is to do your homework. Do your homework on
Do
this,
your
and you will
homework.
have a very
You guys
different view.
haven't done your homework though. You guys said you put
We've done a lot
500
of
man
work.
hours. So what else you got? Let's see what else you got up here.
Is there more evidence to
There
present?
is,
Oh,
this
come
is,
on. You
this
guys
is
got-
the
Here.
beginning. What I would tell you is, this is the first revelation in a series of revelations about these issues.
Oh come on.
And
you
I
guys
will
have
tell
more
you-
photos,
I will tell you
right?
that Congressman Gaetz is cruising for an indictment, as is Rudy Giuliani, for these matters among others.
No, but you guys have more photos, right?
We do have more photos,
Ah,
but-
cool.
but
Let's
things
see
are,
'em.
yes, of course we do, but
Let's
that's,
see 'em.
that's not the purpose of today. Today is to introduce you to Gabby and to make a presentation. We want you to do your homework on this matter, become familiar with the facts, and then we will give more.
Follow up on these leads. Ask Rudy Giuliani what he was
You'll
doing on
see.
the evening of July 20th, 2020.
You'll see.
Ask him
Bring
how
it
much
up.
he had to drink.
You should forward, now I know Zach won't, but you should bring an open mind to this. You usually do.
I'm
Bring it
not,
up to
from
mine.
what you've shown, I'm not sure I understand how you jump from, like, in this cell phone video, Rudy Giuliani is sitting there with 4 people.
Yeah.
And from that,
And
you
there's-
say we can't
One of them
identify
is an
3 of them.
underage
We're very
teen.
Alcohol.
Okay,
People need-
he's sitting at a
I don't
restaurant.
furnish alcohol to underage teens. I know you don't furnish alcohol to underage teens and go on dates with them.
How do you have a receipt or anything else that literally indicates that he gave alcohol to her? Like, how do you know that?
It's clear as day.
Fine, what drink was she?
But how do you know
drinking?
she's even-
Zach, seriously for a sec. What drink was she drinking?
She was drinking Johnny Walker Black Label, same stuff that Giuliani was ordering, and I don't think she liked it.
Did you watch it be poured? I mean, like,
I watched
I'm
it-
trying to
I
get
watched
to
it being
like.
brought over. I watched it being poured and then brought over to the table.
So you were watching Johnny Walker Black
I was
Label
watching the whole thing, and-
be
and
poured
you know
into
who else
a
was there
glass
that night?
before it made it there.
You know who else was there?
You're
that night?
observing the bar
Do you
to
know-
see what they're
do you
pouring
wanna
in
know
case
who else
it
was
makes
there
its
that
way
night and
there.
who was with me and witnessed all of this as well?
Who's
Merrick
that?
Corrigan. She was seated right next to me. That's who I was with.
Mayor
Why don't
Corrigan,
you
who you had a press conference saying you didn't kidnap.
You talked to her. She was right there.
So I have a question for you, Jacob. So how do you know her age, this alleged 16-year-old, if you've ID'd her?
That's right.
How did
So
you
you
do
do
that?
know who she is now. You just told
No,
me.
I said I do know who she is and I'm not going to identify her.
Stop. You just said you don't know
No,
who
I
this
did
girl
not say
is.
that. Zach, I didn't
And
say
now
that.
you say you do
Your
know who
memory
it
is
is.
faulty.
Well, you
The
ID'd her.
amphetamines are
If you
frying your
ID'd,
brain.
if you ID'd her, you would know
Zach,
who she is.
You gotta be, I'll give you some career advice. Stop being ideological. Try being a reporter. Keep your open mind. You're not supposed to be a columnist. You're a reporter.
I would tell you, I do know who the blonde woman is. I
Well,
know who one of the brunettes
You
is.
didn't. At one point, you had no idea who
No,
the
I did
16-year-old
not say
was.
that.
Now you're.
Well, there's
claiming-
instant replay, so you can argue with that, but you can watch the video and.
Oh, but how did you identify? So let's just say you
You
identified
ID'd
her.
her.
How?
I was told by 2 separate people who she was.
There? Like you asked people there and they said,
No,
"Oh, that's this
no,
person."
later on. Later on.
You're wrong.
By showing them this video?
That's right. People that are in
So
the same circles.
people were able to identify that lady off of this photo,
They
off
sure-
that
they
blurry.
absolutely were.
Go back to that. Let's
And
see
then
that.
those people had knowledge that that person is dating Rudy Giuliani, or was that your interpretation
No, I
of
saw
what you
him.
saw?
I saw him on a date with her.
So
How? I just don't understand how you take an image
Zach,
of
let's be
a
clear.
person with
Let's be
4
clear
people and
about
say he's on a date
Let's
with
be
one
clear
of them.
about something. This woman, we don't know who she is.
Okay.
That's Rudy Giuliani.
Sure.
The blonde girl's the 16-year-old. We do know who she is.
Okay.
But you
That
won't say.
girl is Sophia Carbone.
The girl all the way over to the right.
Yes. That would be
Okay,
her.
is that a gentleman?
That's a gentleman, yeah.
Who is that?
I don't know who he is.
We're
I don't know
investigating.
his
This
name.
is, we're,
That's Sophia Carbone?
you have to
Right over
understand
there.
something.
Yes, that is.
We're in the middle of a lengthy investigation. We have some things here that we wanted to put out to the press to give you some things to begin your own, hopefully open-minded investigations. We're giving you this. We have more, and more to the point, we will be acquiring more in the weeks ahead. This is an ongoing investigation.
Do you feel that anybody has ever been held accountable to something you've accused them of in one of these press conferences?
Sure. I would tell you this. I went to a debtor's examination hearing of Michael Avenatti
Good
back in March of 2019.
Oh my
Good point.
And what Michael Avenatti should have done at that hearing is take the fifth. His lawyer was there telling him to take the fifth,
Yes.
but he couldn't because I was there and I was writing about it for the Gateway Pundit and tweeting about it. And
But
just a
not
few
even
days
Gateway
later,
Pundit wants anything to do with you anymore.
Without
Don't you think
Jacob
that's a
Zachary
problem?
and just a few days later,
Would not, he would
exactly
never
72
face
hours
criminal
later, he was
charges.
indicted.
Never. The U.S. attorney didn't even know. Avenatti would never have faced a criminal charge if it weren't for Jacob. Never.
I mean, these
Yeah.
press conferences that you've held, at hotels and at your, on your front porch, have you ever had one of those that turned out to be, remotely credible in the long run?
Well,
like,
we
can you
think
point to
they're
a
all-
single
we think
thing
they're all
that says,
credible.
we think they're all credible.
We're not the
reputable?
police. We don't hold these
Okay,
people
let's talk
accountable.
about
If they're
Mueller.
committing crimes, that's
Whatever
the police.
happened,
We don't
whatever
do
happened with Mueller?
Well, I think it's clear what happened. with
We
Mueller.
stand by, you know, Zach, he left
He's
90
in
days
retirement.
after our press conference.
Okay.
It looks like someone else had a
You
question
laugh,
in
you
your
laugh.
audience there.
Take credit for that.
You
So I
guys take
came-
credit for that?
Sure.
Let's do it.
So I came a
You
little
betcha.
late, so I might have missed this. But if I could ask you, like, why did you choose to come forward with Jacob and Jack?
Well, they were offering, money for information, and honestly, the whole time I did this, it was really hard because I did have, sexual encounters in my childhood, and being so, it was like replaying back in my head. The fact that this man asked for 16 or 17-year-olds is quite disturbing, and I thought it was disgusting because, as I said, my father, he was a rapist, and once I heard that they were asking for information, I wanted to expose them.
Gabby deserves a round of applause for the courage in coming forth to say that. I don't think any of you, maybe some of you do, I don't think you know how hard it is for a young girl to come forth and talk about
She's
it.
essentially giving up her whole business with this. She knows that.
Did you come forward to anybody ahead of coming forward to Jacob Wohl and Jack Burkman when Matt Gaetz asked for underage people to have sexual relations with, as you allege? No?
Did we get through this whole statement?
Can you repeat that? I don't think you
Her answer was no, she did not, no.
Why go to Jacob Wohl and Jack Burkman ahead of law enforcement?
Yeah.
Well,
Like, they seem like the least reliable people you could turn to.
Well, let's hear her, please.
like I said before, they were asking for information, and I felt the need to tell them this information, and I felt the need to express what I was going through in my mind. And, for a while, I didn't think it was that serious, and when they were asking for this information, I felt the need to expose him.
You didn't think that a congressperson asking for a 16-year-old to have sexual relations with was that serious until this pair
So then-
described
so-
the
He didn't
seriousness.
necessarily
of it.
ask
That's
for
not what
sex.
she
He
said.
was
So
asking,
I'm not sure.
He didn't necessarily ask for
So
sex.
fine.
He asked if I
So then-
knew any 16
Well,
or
you're
17.
You're
then
asking
why
and
don't we
answering
just
your own
take-
questions.
So then why not just go to law enforcement now? Like since this is all out in the public.
Well, she made.
So, no, hold on,
Zach,
Jacob.
law
Hold
enforcement
on,
is
hold
busy,
on,
okay?
Burkman. Hold
Law
on,
enforcement is
Burkman.
busy.
Burkman, easy. Just let me finish my question. Why not just take this to law enforcement now, right? Because you come out into the public. This is a public matter now. I mean, it's on
People like
whatever.
to hide things. That's what I can say. For me, I want to expose.
People want to hide. How would going
especially
to
America,
how would
they-
going to the authorities?
Zach, do you
hide-
think police
It's a
have time?
congressman.
Police have no time. It's,
Police
nobody
don't
would
have
put
time
in
for
the
time.
time.
How is-
Apparently not. No,
How is
apparently
this
they
going to
don't.
solve?
Have you two, Jack
I mean,
Burkman and
look,
Jacob Wohl, have
Barney
either of
Frank-
you contacted law
Barney
enforcement
Frank
with
No,
this?
no, we don't do that. We conduct our
Congressman
own
Barney
investigation. We're not
Frank-
interested in that. We
Congressman
conduct our own,
Barney
no.
Frank ran a gay brothel out of his DC apartment for years. The Washington Post talked about it, and guess what? He's still celebrated by the left. They say that's great.
You
He
bet.
can run all the gay brothels he
You
wants.
bet. You
So she
betcha.
came to us because she knows that we will put it out there. It won't be hidden away in a file, never to be spoken about again.
Okay, fine. So then, ma'am, do you have any like anything to like, back up like receipts or like can you? So this
Yeah.
prestigious. So in 2012, you started at
There is
an
Venmo
escort.
receipts and Cash App receipts.
So you have I mean like. Is there anything to like suggest that like you're kind of like legit?
Venmo and Cash App.
As her lawyer, I can tell you there are legal issues we are examining with banking lawyers right now in terms of what we're very careful
But
about
it
what we
always
can
seems
reveal.
that
Talk about the.
No,
you repeat what you
no,
said there
hold
for
on.
me.
So it always
Sorry?
seems that way. It's always like, oh, we have a secretive,
You asked something about
secretive, we have to be
something.
secretive, we have to contact our lawyer.
Well, she mentioned
And-
transactions on Venmo or
Talk
Cash
about
App.
that.
Like Venmo transactions are public, so there
Yeah.
can't possibly be anything.
No, they're
to
not.
do
You
there.
just press private and it's private.
Okay, so then why not just show us and be transparent? Isn't that your goal here, Jacob?
Well, Jack just talked about
We need
this
some
in
legal
Massachusetts.
opinions on that.
You
We're working
always,
with the,
you needed legal opinions in Ukraine and in what?
Why
All
don't
the
you talk
countries
about
on-
some of the
So now-
amounts of money that we're talking about?
give us a sense, why don't you give us a flavor?
The amount of money was, I mean, it was so much where they had to send increments of money. So it was a very large amount of money, and yes.
Do you have a website or anything, ma'am?
No, I do not.
How do people reach out to you to acquire precious escorts?
Well, I'm good with networking with wealthy men.
And that's led you to these two individuals? How did they come into contact with you in the first place?
Meaning us?
I'm sorry, meaning the people who you're making allegations against.
Oh, okay.
Well, at one point in time, I knew people and they knew people, and you know, I grew up in the Washington D.C. metro area, and I lived in Baltimore almost my whole life. So, you know.
So this Precious Escorts place, you're saying you no longer work there, ma'am?
No.
You no
Well,
longer work
she
there?
runs the business, but that business
I
is
don't
going to be
work
dead now,
Yeah, I
because
don't-
obviously people are gonna have concerns
She's
about.
giving up her livelihood on a permanent basis
Wait, but if
by
you
doing
ran,
this.
but if you ran this Precious Escort thing, wouldn't your contact information be on it? This site?
I don't know what site you're looking at, Zach.
Yeah,
She's
I
never
don't
had a
know.
website.
This is Precious Escorts in Baltimore?
Precious Escorts of Baltimore, and you've never had a website,
No,
correct?
no.
We've asked her about that.
Are you concerned, Jacob and Jack, that doing this kind of stunt is going to affect your current criminal case?
Absolutely not.
This is not
Absolutely-
right.
Absolutely not, we have
This
no
is not
concern.
right.
We don't do stunts, we pursue the truth. Again, Ford, I'm shocked to death that you would not admire the courage it takes to do what we're doing today.
We're the first people to come out and name names. The Daily Beast reporting on this has been pathetic. They haven't named one person. They say there are all these women, but we're not going to say who they are. We're going to speak to them on the condition of anonymity. Well, now you know some names, and there are many more names that you may soon know.
But this Precious Escort place, like, isn't even a thing. Like, wait,
Well,
what?
sure
As
is,
I
you're
said
looking at it.
before,
Are you incorporated as an
there is
S corp, LLC, C
You
corp?
don't
like,
exactly do
No,
that.
why
what is
would a
your-
madam, why would a madam
is
be
your-
an escort, Ford?
Well,
Come
no,
on
it's-
now, come on, Ford, come on now,
Have you
baby.
done this completely under the table?
She's a limited liability
Like, is that-
partnership, Ford.
Ford, come on now. You-
She's a
come on.
limited liability.
Let us not be silly.
Really?
Just to be clear, was that sarcasm,
That was
Jacob?
sarcasm, yes. People don't
Okay.
typically,
I'm telling you, I
Can we-
really,
can we-
bring
can-
an open mind to this. You'll be glad you did, because you can uncover other things when you question the subjects. Bring an open mind, guys. You'll be glad you did.
Can we finish this? We were,
what were you, any kind of final
yeah,
questions?
because you guys didn't get through all this, right?
We did.
You guys read through all
I
this?
believe we did.
Sure
Okay,
did.
so then what's up with paragraph 10 here? So does this lady have any relationship or know or any met Carbone?
Yes, yes.
Oh, so you know Sophia?
Yes, I
You-
do.
you've
I
met
I know
them?
both Natalie Winters and Sophia.
Okay, and they say what? What have they told you?
I know that Carbone lived with Mr. Gaetz, and it was very.
Well, they told her a lot, about what? What have they told her about what? I mean, they
Just
told
in
her a lot of
general,
things. I mean,
or-
they told her a lot of things.
he
So what are you referring
was-
to?
Why are you being so defensive, Jacob?
No, I'm asking you what you're talking about specifically.
I'm just asking about.
Just saying in general,
I'm
right?
asking about, yeah, I'm asking about what she knows about Sophia Carbone and about Natalie Winters, who you allege had a
I
relationship.
wouldn't, this is just an overly broad question. I don't know what he's interested in, but,
I'm interested in the allegations you're pushing.
I would encourage you to open your own investigation, Zach. You'll be glad you did.
So why can you not answer me? Like what's the deal
I
with
mean,
that?
it's in there. I said it's. Miss Winters was a Chicago student. I mean, what do you?
he
But-
doesn't know what he wants.
No, no,
He's-
you're-
He's
you're-
just, listen, Zach, if you want the hill to die on to be you defending Matt Gaetz, who is soon to be indicted, I'd encourage you to do it. but I don't think you'll be happy you did.
You said that the reason that you haven't gone to law enforcement with these allegations is because law enforcement is too busy to hear about pedophilia.
We
But
don't
you're
waste-
also
we
confident
don't
that Matt
waste our
Gaetz is
time.
going to be indicted. Are
They hear
are they
about-
too busy to hear about your part of it? I'm not sure I understand
We
that.
conduct, it goes to our charter and our mandate at 5099. We conduct our own investigations. We don't work with law enforcement. We're not interested in others. We have our own operation, and from the start, that was our mandate to conduct
We
our
don't
own
talk to law
investigations.
enforcement.
We don't do that. We're not interested in that.
So what's the plan from here?
We
You
don't talk to
guys,
cops.
you guys don't talk to
What
cops?
about when you reported a threat against you that you made to
That was
yourself on
fake.
Twitter once?
And in Minnesota, you said, yeah,
you walked to
exactly.
the police station
You
and
went
had
to the
someone film
police,
you do it.
so now you don't talk to the police because you reported a fake death threat upon yourself, is
I
that
don't know
right?
what you mean, Zach.
Oh, come on.
I can
Jacob,
hardly
stop
hear
playing-
you through the mask.
In Ellie
Stop playing
Alexander's
games. Stop
documentary,
playing
All right, do we
he
have more
filmed you walk
questions?
into a
Yeah,
police
We have a
station.
serious question.
I just
Do you have
asked you a
one-
question.
Do you want to
so-
go with one more question? and
Why
then
don't we
wrap?
take one more? Anybody have a serious question for us about this topic, about the matter at bar?
Yeah, like why? So what conversations have you had with Mrs. Winters or Mrs. Carbone that would that
She's quoted.
they feel comfortable sharing this with you?
Yeah, I mean, I was the one that helped provide services for these congressmen. So of course they were comfortable to tell me that, yeah, he wants anal sex and so on and so forth. And he asked for, quote, MFM threesomes. I don't know if you know what that means, but that's male,
He
female,
knows,
male.
believe me.
Threesomes. So, you know, me being a female, you feel comfortable. Me,
Right, I get
and,
that.
you know, you're
So-
not.
So then what? So they came to you. I'm just trying to get this timeline right. When did they come to you? They came to you.
After they would be with Congressman Gaetz, they told me weird stories of how
Okay, when was the first time this happened?
probably, I'd say a little bit after December of 2018. A little bit
Okay,
after.
and they came to you and said, "This is what we're dealing with." So then why didn't they just? So they didn't want to be in that relationship. How old were they at the time? I take it they didn't want to be in that relationship or do that, or
Well,
were they consenting to that? Sorry.
Sophia actually lived, Congressman Gaetz lived with Sophia at one point. It was an actual relationship.
And when was that? Sorry.
That was basically last year.
Yeah, it was last year.
Because like I said, Zach, he was busted in a corrupt arrangement with a lobbyist, renting an apartment at a reduced rate. It was reported in the media, and that same day he moved out, and then he moved in.
Okay, so you're telling me Matt Gaetz lived with this girl, and then also
We're
had.
just repeating ourselves now. I think we better.
No,
better
it
wrap
seems
up. We've
like
said this over
it
and
seems
over
like
again.
things are like really blurry.
No, they're not blurry. They're not blurry at all.
on purpose.
Jack, you're not the plaintiff's lawyer in a deposition where you ask the same question 9 times hoping to get a different response. You're supposed to be a reporter. You're not plaintiff's counsel. You're functioning as plaintiff's counsel, okay?
Well,
That's not what
okay.
reporters
Oh,
are
I
supposed
got
to do.
one more question for you guys. Are you guys prepared to go to prison? Like, are you guys?
No, we're not going to prison.
You guys stand by no legal concerns?
None.
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 None today, none yesterday.
None
tomorrow.
whatsoever.
Gabrielle, did you ever warn any other escorts, sex workers, etc., about these two men who you say are predatory?
I actually terminated my relationship with Congressman Gaetz when I heard all these stories.
But did you warn anybody else? It stands to reason that if someone's in that
It's
community,
hard
they
to
would
warn
want.
when one woman comes out and then other women feel comfortable to come out at the same time.
So truly, these two gentlemen are the first people who you came to about this issue. You kept it
Yes.
silent until then.
So are these two women who are now, I don't know, how old are they? How old are these two? They're what?
They must be 19 and 20.
Yeah,
19 and 20? Okay, so then why don't they just come forward if you're, or did they say it's okay for you to
We
like,
can't get into
tout-
that. We haven't had
Can't get
discussions
into it.
about any of that.
We have a lot more to come on this, Zach. This is the beginning. This is not something that goes away. We've got a lot of events coming. This is a serious investigation. This is one of the most serious and most detailed things we've ever done.
But you
Well,
guys,
thanks for coming, Zach. That was your last question.
Thank you, everyone.
and,
Thank
we
you.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thanks for watching
Ladies,
at home.
gentlemen, thank you.
touch it. I know it's stronger.
You don't have any kind of follow-up like sometimes you've said, oh, afterwards we're gonna email you,
No
you know,
specific
additional stuff. You don't have
dates or times or
anything
anything like that.
more
No,
than
no
what you've shown
specific
here
things
to.
right now.
All right.